The world is full of mysteries that seem to defy explanation, phenomena that linger at the edges of human understanding. Across time and space, countless discoveries have emerged, challenging what we think we know about history, nature, and science. Some of these mysteries are ancient, buried in sand or ice. Others are more recent, discovered by modern technology or sheer chance. They are quiet reminders that, despite centuries of exploration, knowledge, and investigation, the universe retains secrets that remain just beyond our reach. Many of these discoveries straddle the line between the known and unknown. On the surface, they may appear explainable. Artifacts, unusual formations, or strange occurrences, but deeper investigation often raises more questions than answers. Each discovery carries its own story, a blend of history, science, and imagination, inviting curiosity and reflection. Some challenge our understanding of time, geography, or biology, while others hint at civilizations and lives we can barely imagine. What draws people to these mysteries is not just the unknown itself, but the quiet tension it creates, the contrast between what we can measure and what we cannot, the interplay of facts and the shadows of possibility. They encourage contemplation, patience, and awe, gently nudging the mind to explore beyond the limits of conventional understanding. In this series, we will journey through some of the creepiest, most baffling discoveries that still resist explanation, taking a path that moves slowly, immersively, and poetically, as though we are walking at night through the dim corridors of history itself. Deep within the ice of Antarctica lies a hidden world, untouched for millions of years. Massive glaciers, frozen deserts, and a landscape so extreme that human life struggles to survive hide secrets beneath their weight. Among the most enigmatic is Lake Vostok, buried under nearly 4 kilometers of ice, a liquid world isolated from sunlight, wind, and modern life. Scientists who have drilled into its depths discover microbial life unlike anything seen before, organisms that may have evolved independently from the rest of the planet. The lake's isolation makes it extraordinary. No human has walked its shores. No light has penetrated its depths. Yet life persists in forms that challenge our understanding of biology. Instruments also record anomalies, subtle chemical imbalances, strange electromagnetic signals, and patterns that do not match existing models. The lake's existence prompts larger questions. Could life endure in conditions we once thought impossible? And might similar worlds exist elsewhere in the cosmos? Lake Vostok is more than a scientific curiosity. It is a meditation on time, isolation, and resilience. Its icy surface is both a barrier and a shield, preserving secrets that demand patience and reverence. In exploring it, we glimpse a universe larger than ourselves, a reminder that some mysteries exist to humble, inspire, and quietly remind us of the unknown that still thrives beneath the surface of our understanding. Far to the south, Antarctica's ice sheets conceal stories that predate human civilization. Beneath layers of snow and pressure lies a lake untouched for millennia, a frozen archive of life that developed independently from the rest of the world. Lake Vostok's depths contain microbes and chemical signatures that defy easy classification, revealing forms of life adapted to extreme cold, isolation, and immense pressure. These organisms are not merely curiosities. They challenge assumptions about the limits of survival and the resilience of life itself. The lake's discovery is a testament to human patience and ingenuity. Drilling through kilometers of ice required meticulous care to avoid contamination. Yet each new finding raises further questions. Strange signals, subtle anomalies, and patterns that resist explanation hint at phenomena beyond current scientific understanding. The silence of Antarctica amplifies this mystery, creating a sense that the lake exists in a separate world, one that may hold insights into life on Earth and even the possibility of life on distant planets. Lake Vostok is a quiet enigma, a reminder that the Earth itself contains hidden realms where history, biology, and time converge. It invites reflection on what we know, what we cannot know, and how curiosity leads us to the edges of understanding. In its frozen isolation, the lake hums with patience, holding secrets that are both compelling and humbling, and whispering that the universe is far stranger than we imagine. Far from the frozen silence of Antarctica, the world opens into the sun-scorched deserts of southern Peru, where the earth itself becomes a canvas for mysteries that have endured for centuries. On the high plains of the Nazca Desert, vast geoglyphs stretch across the land, forming lines, shapes, and figures so immense that they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. There are spirals and straight paths that traverse the desert like rivers of stone, intricate depictions of animals, birds, and fantastical beings, and geometric forms whose precision is staggering. For centuries, their purpose has eluded scholars, archaeologists, and explorers, sparking theories that range from practical to fantastical. As the morning sun casts long shadows across the desert, these lines seem to breathe, to shift subtly with the play of light, and to whisper secrets that have survived millennia. The Nazca lines were created by removing the reddish-brown iron oxide-coated pebbles that cover the desert surface, revealing the lighter-colored earth beneath. The scale of the work is astonishing. Some lines stretch for miles, some figures are over 200 meters in length. The precision with which they were drawn, particularly considering the lack of advanced surveying tools, has baffled scientists and historians alike. How did the Nazca people, working with only rudimentary instruments, manage to create designs that maintain perfect proportions over such enormous distances? This question alone evokes awe, and it is amplified when one considers that the lines were designed to endure, carefully maintained across generations, surviving the harsh desert winds and rare rainfall. Their endurance is a testament not only to human skill, but also to a vision that transcended the ordinary, a deliberate act meant to communicate something far greater than immediate utility. The interpretations of the Nazca lines are as diverse as they are compelling. Some researchers suggest they were related to astronomical observations, aligning with solstices, constellations, or water sources vital for survival in the arid landscape. Others propose religious or ritual purposes, perhaps pathways for ceremonial processions or offerings to deities who watch from the sky. There is even speculation that the lines served as a form of communication, intended not for the people on the ground, but for beings who might observe them from above, a concept that gently stretches the imagination and blurs the line between practical necessity and spiritual intent. Each theory carries its own allure, each plausible and yet insufficient, leaving room for contemplation and quiet wonder. Walking across the desert near the lines, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of scale and humility. The shapes are enormous, yet the desert is silent, still, and vast, emphasizing the smallness of the observer against the deliberate ambition of the ancient designers. The mind begins to drift, imagining the laborers who may have laid out these figures, measuring and clearing, perhaps guided by a vision we can only partially comprehend. Each step across the sand becomes a meditation on human determination and ingenuity, as well as on the mysteries that endure despite time, climate, and history. The desert, with its soft, whispering winds and faint shimmer of heat, becomes a living participant in the story, a silent witness to the passage of generations and the persistence of enigma. The Nazca lines also highlight the tension between the known and the unknown, a recurring theme in our exploration of unexplained discoveries. Archaeologists have studied the lines extensively, using aerial photography, satellite imagery, and modern surveying tools to map every figure, line, and spiral. They understand how the lines were constructed and the general era of their creation. Yet, despite this extensive knowledge, the precise purpose of the lines remains elusive, a mystery that gently teases the mind. It is this very balance between meticulous understanding and persistent uncertainty that renders the Nazca lines so compelling. They are at once fully real and partly inscrutable, tangible in their presence yet subtle in their meaning, a quiet invitation to linger at the edge of comprehension. Beyond their scale and precision, the figures themselves are mesmerizing. The hummingbird, the monkey, the spider, and the condor emerge from the desert like spectral guides, their forms both familiar and otherworldly. Some of the figures incorporate intricate geometric patterns, spirals, and lines that intersect in ways that suggest a careful mathematical understanding, even if the intention behind it remains unclear. It is as if the Nazca people left a message encoded in stone and earth, a communication meant to endure beyond the limitations of time, a silent language that hums with potential meaning. Observing the lines evokes a sense of calm wonder, a slow unfolding of fascination that encourages contemplation rather than haste. The mystery of the Nazca lines also extends to their preservation. Despite being exposed to wind, occasional rain, and human intrusion, many of the lines have survived remarkably intact. The desert's particular climate and soil composition have protected these geoglyphs for over a millennium, allowing them to speak to the present with the quiet authority of endurance. This resilience itself is a kind of message, a reminder that some creations, once made with care and intention, can persist against the odds, communicating with generations far removed from their origin. In this way, the lines are more than mere shapes on a desert floor. They're a dialogue across time, an enduring whisper from the past to the present. As one imagines gliding over the desert in a small aircraft or viewing the lines from the sky, the scale and intricacy become even more profound. The figures align and intersect in ways that seem almost impossible to coordinate without aerial perspective, raising questions about how ancient people could achieve such precision. Did they have ways of measuring and observing that we have yet to fully understand? Were the lines simply practical and symbolic, or did they reach for something beyond immediate human comprehension, a connection to the cosmos, to spiritual realms, or to forces we have long forgotten? The lines invite these questions without demanding answers, leaving the mind to drift gently along the contours of possibility. The Nazca lines are more than an archaeological wonder. They are a meditation on human curiosity, creativity, and the quiet persistence of mystery. They remind us that even in landscapes that seem harsh, barren, and unyielding, the human impulse to create, to communicate, and to leave a mark endures. They connect the past and the present, the earth and the sky, the known and the unknown. And as the desert sun sinks lower, casting long shadows across the geoglyphs, there is a sense of reverent silence, a soft invitation to continue the journey into mysteries that are just as vast, just as enigmatic, and just as quietly haunting. As we leave the high desert of Peru and prepare to turn toward the ancient tombs of Egypt, the Nazca lines linger in the mind, a reminder that some creations exist not to be fully understood, but to be experienced, contemplated, and revered. The interplay of precision, scale, and ambiguity creates a subtle tension that mirrors the larger journey we are on, a journey through discoveries that straddle the boundary between explanation and wonder, fact and speculation, the comforting and the unsettling. In this gentle tension, the heart of mystery thrives, and we continue our exploration, moving from the whisper of the desert to the silent grandeur of sealed tombs, carrying with us the quiet hum of questions that refuse to be answered. In the sun-baked deserts of Egypt, where golden sands stretch to meet the horizon, lie tombs that have remained sealed for centuries, their secrets carefully guarded by time itself. These are not merely burial sites. They're silent chambers of memory, monuments to both human ingenuity and the enduring enigma of death. Within their walls, pharaohs, nobles, and high priests were laid to rest with objects meant to accompany them into eternity: jewelry, pottery, scrolls, and artifacts whose meanings often remain obscure. Yet, even as archaeologists and historians have studied Egypt for centuries, countless tombs have never been opened, and many remain untouched, not out of ignorance, but out of a cautious reverence for the unknown. The air around these sites carries a quiet weight, a sense of expectation mixed with unease, reminding us that some doors are meant to be approached with patience, care, and humility. The act of sealing a tomb was deliberate, a ritual in itself, designed to protect both the body and the soul of the deceased. Massive stone slabs, precise masonry, and intricate locking mechanisms were intended to withstand both time and human interference. Beyond the practical reasons of security and preservation, there existed a spiritual imperative. Tombs were thresholds between life and the afterlife, sacred spaces that could not be casually disturbed. Stories passed down through generations speak of curses, misfortunes, or sudden deaths befalling those who dared to open tombs without permission or proper rites. While modern science largely attributes such events to coincidence, disease, or accidents, the legends persist, adding a layer of tension and wonder that human imagination cannot easily dismiss. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, and treasure seekers have tried to access these sealed spaces. Some are motivated by knowledge, others by wealth, and a few by sheer curiosity. In many cases, initial examinations revealed faint signs of activity, disturbed sand, weathered inscriptions, or traces of rituals intended to honor the dead. Yet when the tombs themselves were breached, a different kind of mystery emerged. Some contained meticulously preserved artifacts, untouched for millennia. Others revealed skeletal remains with unusual positions or arrangements, puzzling even seasoned archaeologists. Chemical analyses and carbon dating could explain the age of materials, the composition of the tombs, and the techniques used in their construction, but the sense of human intention, the story encoded in stone, wood, and pigment, remained elusive. The atmosphere within a sealed tomb is profoundly different from that of a modern laboratory. It is a space devoid of noise, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of ancient stone, resin, and earth. Every footstep echoes softly against walls that have witnessed centuries of silence. Shadows pool in corners, deepening the perception of space and adding a subtle eeriness to every movement. For researchers, there is both awe and caution. Awe at the incredible preservation of human history, and caution born of respect for a realm that was never meant to be hurriedly examined. In these quiet chambers, the line between science and reverence blurs, and every discovery is tinged with the weight of responsibility. To understand without desecrating, to observe without disturbing, to interpret without assuming. Some of the most intriguing mysteries arise from the anomalies observed within these tombs. Skeletal remains sometimes show unusual postures or placements, suggesting rituals or burial practices that defy contemporary understanding. Tomb walls occasionally feature inscriptions or artwork that do not align with known historical conventions, hinting at local practices, lost beliefs, or unknown symbolism. Even the arrangement of artifacts, the careful positioning of jars, amulets, and personal items, can provoke questions about intent, hierarchy, and the cultural understanding of death. Each anomaly is a subtle signal, a whisper from the past that invites reflection, speculation, and cautious wonder. The tombs of Egypt also illustrate the interplay between fear and fascination. Tales of the curse of the pharaohs reached their peak during the early 20th century, after the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, when several members of the expedition died under seemingly mysterious circumstances. While modern investigation has largely debunked the idea of supernatural retribution, the stories endure, casting a soft shadow over every unexcavated site. The fear that lingers is not only of curses, but of the unknown, of what we might find that does not fit into our established understanding of history, of science, or of human nature. It is this tension between knowledge and the unknowable that gives these tombs their quiet power, making them more than mere archaeological sites, but portals into a world where certainty is fleeting and mystery is permanent. As researchers carefully examine these sealed spaces, they also confront questions about preservation and ethics. Opening a tomb exposes delicate organic materials, pigments, and artifacts to air, moisture, and microbial life, all of which can degrade or destroy centuries of history in a matter of days. Some tombs have been left unopened precisely because the risks of disturbance outweigh the desire for knowledge. This deliberate restraint is itself a kind of wisdom, acknowledging that not every secret must be revealed immediately, that patience is often a better guide than haste. In the silent calculus of archaeology, respect for the unknown becomes a guiding principle, a gentle reminder that discovery is as much about timing and care as it is about curiosity. The quiet allure of these tombs extends beyond the physical to the imaginative. Scholars and laypeople alike are drawn to contemplate what lies behind the sealed doors. Ancient rituals, unknown texts, perhaps even the remnants of lives that history has largely forgotten. In the mind's eye, the tomb becomes a theater for speculation, where the imagination weaves stories of forgotten kings, unrecorded dynasties, and rituals that blend spirituality with the mechanics of survival in an unforgiving desert. The mind hovers at the edge of possibility, teasing out connections, imagining sounds, scents, and motions that might have once filled these chambers, and sensing that there is still something ineffably alive within the silence. And yet, even in their stillness, these tombs connect profoundly with the human experience. They confront us with our mortality, our desire to be remembered, and the lengths to which we go to protect memory from time's erosion. They remind us that death is both an end and a story, that every life leaves traces, and that the human impulse to create, to preserve, and to communicate endures long after the body has returned to dust. In this way, the tombs are not only mysterious, they are deeply intimate, bridging the gap between past and present, observer and observed, life and the quiet eternity that follows. As we leave the shadows of Egypt's sealed tombs and prepare to listen to the soft hums that drift through modern towns, the lessons linger. These tombs teach patience, reverence, and the subtle thrill of the unknown. They encourage us to walk gently, to observe with care, and to acknowledge that some mysteries are best approached slowly, allowing them to unfold in their own time. In their silence, they hold a quiet dialogue, inviting contemplation rather than haste, reflection rather than action. They are monuments not only to the dead, but to the enduring power of wonder and to the delicate tension between knowledge and the mysteries that remain just beyond reach. In quiet towns around the world, from the high deserts of New Mexico to the rolling hills of England, there exists a phenomenon that has puzzled both scientists and laypeople alike, a persistent, low-frequency hum, often described as a droning sound that seems to have no discernible source. Known simply as the hum, it is a sound that can be both subtle and maddening, sometimes barely audible, other times impossible to ignore. Residents report that it comes and goes, often in the still hours of the night, when the world is otherwise silent. For those who hear it, the experience is not merely auditory. It can seep into the bones, creating a sense of unease, tension, and even insomnia. The hum is a gentle reminder that even in the familiar, the world holds corners of mystery that defy simple explanation. The first recorded accounts of the hum appeared in the 20th century, though it is likely that humans have noticed similar sounds for centuries. People describe it as a low, steady vibration, often accompanied by a faint pressure in the chest or head. It is rarely audible to everyone. In many cases, only a small percentage of residents in a given area report hearing it. This selective perception adds an additional layer of intrigue, prompting questions about the interaction between the environment and human physiology. Are some people unusually sensitive to frequencies that others cannot perceive? Or does the hum exist in a space that exists between reality and perception, a sound that is both external and internal at the same time? Scientists have explored a range of possible explanations. Some suggest that the hum arises from industrial sources, such as distant machinery, electrical equipment, or ventilation systems. Others hypothesize that it could be a natural phenomenon generated by geological or atmosphere processes. Low-frequency seismic vibrations, the movement of tectonic plates, or even wind passing over uneven terrain might produce sounds that humans detect in unexpected ways. Some researchers have examined electromagnetic sources, theorizing that the hum could be linked to subtle interactions between the Earth's magnetic field and man-made technology. Yet, despite decades of study, no single source has been identified that can account for the hum's variability, persistence, and selective audibility. The experience of hearing the hum is often deeply personal and, in some cases, disorienting. Those affected describe the sensation as almost corporeal, a vibration that seems to resonate within the skull, a sound that cannot be escaped even when one closes their eyes or retreats indoors. Sleep becomes difficult, concentration wavers, and a sense of isolation grows, as many sufferers feel that others cannot perceive the same experience. For some, this has led to frustration or despair, a quiet torment that is both inexplicable and invisible. And yet, even in its subtle disturbance, there is something almost meditative about the hum, a reminder of the delicate interplay between perception, environment, and consciousness. Anthropologists and psychologists have noted that the hum often occupies a space at the edge of human awareness, a liminal zone where reality and imagination converge. For centuries, humans have been attuned to subtle environmental cues, changes in wind, water, or animal movement that signal danger or opportunity. The hum may tap into this sensitivity, manifesting as a frequency that is perceptible only to certain individuals. It is as if the earth itself is whispering, a faint vibration that most of us ignore but that a few can hear. The quiet persistence of this sound, combined with its resistance to explanation, evokes a strange sense of intimacy with the unseen forces of the natural world. In towns like Taos, New Mexico, the phenomenon has become almost a part of the local culture. Residents speak of it with a mixture of curiosity and resignation, sharing stories of nights spent lying awake, listening to the droning hum, and trying to trace it to a source. Some have attempted scientific measurements, placing sensitive microphones and seismographs around the area, hoping to capture its pattern. The data collected is inconsistent, sometimes revealing faint low-frequency vibrations, other times showing nothing at all. The hum, in this sense, becomes a kind of riddle, a phenomenon that exists at the edge of understanding, teasing both the scientific mind and the imagination. The global nature of the hum adds to its allure. Reports come from diverse environments, from industrial towns in England to remote rural areas in New Zealand, from suburban neighborhoods to coastal villages. While the characteristics of the hum vary, the common thread is its inexplicability. Its persistence and elusiveness create a quiet tension, a sense that the world has layers of sound and vibration that are normally hidden, subtle messages woven into the fabric of reality that only occasionally break through the veil of perception. It is a phenomenon that challenges assumptions about the world, reminding us that human perception is limited and that mysteries can exist even in our most familiar surroundings. Some have even suggested metaphysical interpretations, speculating that the hum may be a kind of residual energy, a trace of collective human emotion, or a connection to forces that lie beyond conventional understanding. While these ideas remain unprovable, they add a poetic dimension to the phenomenon. The hum is not merely a sound. It is a quiet prompt to reflect on the boundaries of knowledge, the mysteries embedded in the environment, and the ways in which our perception shapes our experience of reality. It is both scientific puzzle and philosophical meditation, a subtle vibration that encourages contemplation rather than alarm. Listening to the hum invites a slowing of the mind. In the stillness of a quiet night, the low drone becomes a companion, a rhythm against which thought can gently pulse. It fosters reflection, encouraging awareness of the delicate interplay between the inner world and the external environment. The sound, though mysterious and sometimes unsettling, is ultimately a reminder of the world's richness and complexity, and of our own capacity for perception, curiosity, and wonder. Like the other unexplained phenomena we have encountered, it emphasizes that not all mysteries need immediate answers, that some exist to be felt, observed, and quietly contemplated. As we leave the small towns where the hum resonates and move toward the resonance of stone and the subtle vibrations of ancient structures, the phenomenon lingers in the mind. It prepares us for the next discovery, a mystery that bridges the physical and the acoustic, the ancient and the inexplicable. It reminds us that sound, like silence, can carry secrets, that perception is as mysterious as the phenomena we seek to understand, and that the world often hums with enigmas just beneath the surface of awareness. In this gentle tension, curiosity awakens, and the quiet journey into the unknown continues. In scattered corners of the ancient world, there exist stones that hum, resonate, or sing when struck, moved, or even simply touched. These are not ordinary stones. They are objects imbued with a strange acoustic magic, capable of producing tones that echo across valleys, bounce along mountainsides, or linger in the still air of quiet temples. Known in some places as singing stones or ringing rocks, they have captivated humans for millennia, inspiring reverence, fear, and wonder. Their mysterious tones are precise, sometimes harmonic, sometimes discordant, and always compelling. Unlike the sounds of wind, water, or animals, these vibrations seem deliberate, almost as if the earth itself is speaking, offering a melody that resonates not only in the ear, but deep within the chest. Some of the most famous examples of singing stones can be found in the ancient ruins of Peru, where massive stone walls and ceremonial plazas were built using rocks that emit a distinct ringing sound when struck. Archaeologists have marveled at the precision of these structures, noting that the builders selected each stone not only for its size and shape, but perhaps for its acoustic properties. Imagine walking among the stones, gently tapping one with a finger or a piece of wood, and hearing a deep, resonant tone that vibrates through your body. The experience is simultaneously soothing and eerie, a reminder of the subtle sophistication of ancient builders and their possible understanding of sound as a sacred or ritualistic tool. The phenomenon of singing stones is not confined to Peru. Across the world, from the basalt formations of Ireland to granite outcrops in India, similar acoustic properties have been observed. In some locations, stones were deliberately shaped, smoothed, or arranged to enhance resonance, creating spaces where sound could travel, echo, and amplify. Researchers have experimented with these stones, discovering that the pitch and tone can vary depending on the size, density, and even the mineral composition of the rock. Certain stones produce low, haunting hums, while others emit clear, bell-like tones that seem almost engineered for ritual or meditation. The precision with which these sounds emerge continues to puzzle modern science, suggesting a level of knowledge or intuition that is remarkable for ancient civilizations. The cultural significance of singing stones is equally compelling. Many ancient societies appear to have associated these stones with spiritual or mystical practices. Temples, burial sites, and ceremonial plazas were often constructed using stones selected for their resonant qualities, hinting that sound itself was considered sacred. In some traditions, the vibrations of the stones were believed to communicate with deities, cleanse spaces of negative energy, or facilitate altered states of consciousness. There are reports of shamans and priests using the stones to induce trance, meditation, or ritualistic preparation, suggesting that the phenomenon was not merely appreciated for its novelty, but understood as a tool for connecting with the unseen. In this way, the singing stones become more than objects of curiosity. They are bridges between the physical and the spiritual, between the material and the mysterious. Modern experiments with these stones often yield results that seem almost impossible. When struck in precise locations, some stones emit multiple harmonic overtones, producing a soundscape that can be both haunting and melodious. These overtones sometimes interact with surrounding rocks, creating a resonance that amplifies the sound over astonishing distances. In certain configurations, the vibrations appear to affect nearby materials, subtly moving sand, dust, or small objects. While physics provides some explanations, elasticity, density, and vibration modes, the intuition behind the ancient placement of these stones remains elusive. How did early builders recognize these acoustic properties without sophisticated instruments? Were they aware of their potential effects on the human mind and body? The questions linger, unanswerable yet profoundly engaging. The emotional impact of singing stones is difficult to overstate. In a quiet space, removed from the noise of modern life, striking one of these stones can produce a tone that seems to resonate with the body itself. The low frequencies vibrate through the chest, the spine, and even the skull, creating a subtle but undeniable physical sensation. It is both calming and otherworldly, a tactile connection to something ancient, elemental, and strangely alive. Observers often report a feeling of timelessness, as though the sound carries echoes from distant centuries, resonating with human consciousness across generations. There is a quiet poetry in this, a sense that the stones are not merely objects, but storytellers, narrating the resonance of human history and the ongoing dialogue between earth and observer. Singing stones also highlight the interplay between science and mystery, a recurring theme in our exploration of unexplained phenomena. On the one hand, geology, acoustics, and physics offer explanations for vibration, resonance, and tone. On the other hand, the human selection, arrangement, and reverence for these stones suggest something more, an understanding that goes beyond pure mechanics. It is in this space, between empirical knowledge and intuitive practice, that the mystery deepens. The stones exist in both realms simultaneously, explainable in theory, yet astonishing in their manifestation, inviting quiet wonder and meditative contemplation. Walking among a cluster of singing stones is a profoundly immersive experience. The air seems to hold the vibrations, subtle yet persistent, creating an almost hypnotic environment. Even in silence, the stones seem to hum with possibility, waiting for the touch that will awaken their voice. There is a meditative rhythm to this process. Strike a stone, listen to the tone, feel the vibration, reflect on the history embedded within its form. The stones teach patience and attention, encouraging the observer to slow down, to engage with the environment in a deliberate and mindful way. In this, the mystery is not a puzzle to be solved, but a state to be experienced, a quiet meditation on sound, time, and the endurance of human creativity. The global distribution of singing stones adds another layer to their allure. Across continents, cultures have discovered, utilized, and revered these rocks in ways that are strikingly similar, despite vast differences in geography, climate, and technology. This convergence raises tantalizing questions. Were these discoveries purely coincidental, a result of shared human intuition and observation? Or is there a deeper, perhaps universal principle at play, a recognition that sound and resonance hold a particular kind of power that transcends culture and era? The recurrence of these stones in ancient construction suggests that humanity has long been attuned to the subtleties of the natural world, sensitive to phenomena that modern perception sometimes overlooks. The singing stones, like other unexplained phenomena we have encountered, occupy a liminal space where observation, imagination, and reverence converge. They invite us to listen, not just with our ears, but with our bodies and minds, to attune ourselves to frequencies that exist on the edge of perception. They remind us that the natural world is layered, that subtle vibrations can carry meaning across space and time, and that human ingenuity often intersects with the uncanny in ways that are both beautiful and mysterious. In the resonance of these stones, we find a gentle echo of the past, a reminder that even in silence, the world has stories to tell. As we leave the singing stones and prepare to explore the whispers of ancient underground tunnels, deep forests, and abandoned structures, the memory of their tones lingers. The vibrations reverberate softly in the mind, a quiet bridge between the tangible and the ineffable. They encourage patience, reflection, and a sensitivity to the subtle mysteries that surround us. And in this gentle awareness, The journey continues, moving ever deeper into the unknown, carrying the faint echo of stones that sing with the wisdom of the ages. Beneath the tranquil surfaces of oceans, lakes, and rivers, the world hides secrets that remain largely invisible to the human eye. Among these hidden wonders are the enigmatic underwater cities, sprawling, stone-built structures that hint at civilizations long lost to time and tide. From the sunken ruins off the coast of Japan to mysterious formations in the Mediterranean and even submerged platforms in the Caribbean, these sites suggest that the past holds stories far older and stranger than conventional history acknowledges. Their stone walls, steps, and geometrically precise patterns seem deliberate, as though entire cities were once thriving above water before being claimed by the slow, relentless advance of the sea. The sense of scale and permanence evokes awe, while the uncertainty surrounding their origins deepens the mystery, leaving observers suspended between history and imagination. One of the most famous examples of such submerged mysteries lies off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan. Discovered in the 1980s by a diver exploring the ocean floor, the formations revealed massive terraces, staircases, and angular structures that suggested intentional construction. Some stones were shaped into straight lines, right angles, and flat planes that are rarely found in natural formations. The scale of the structures is staggering. Some terraces rise nearly 20 meters, while massive blocks of stone, weighing tons, appear to have been carefully positioned. Scientists and historians have debated whether these formations are the result of natural tectonic activity or human hands. Yet even skeptics admit that the precision, scale, and geometric complexity raise profound questions about what ancient peoples may have achieved and what may have been lost to rising seas. The possibility that these cities predate recorded history adds an almost poetic layer of wonder. Rising sea levels during the end of the last ice age submerged large areas of habitable land, wiping out settlements and erasing cultures from the face of the earth. Underwater archaeology has revealed artifacts, tools, and pottery in various submerged sites around the world, indicating that humans adapted to these environments, built thriving communities, and left behind traces that continue to challenge our understanding of history. Yet so much remains hidden beneath sediment, sand, and water, waiting patiently for rediscovery. The oceans, in this sense, act as both preservers and concealers, holding ancient cities in a quiet embrace while keeping their stories just out of reach. Exploring these underwater sites is a slow, meticulous process. Divers, archaeologists, and marine engineers use advanced technology, sonar mapping, remotely operated vehicles, and underwater photography to document structures without disturbing them. The water refracts light, softens edges, and magnifies shadows, making the formations appear even more surreal. A staircase may lead to nowhere, a plaza may open to empty abyss, and a wall may curve in a manner that seems intentional yet inexplicable. The visual experience is immersive, almost dreamlike, blurring the line between human creation and natural formation. One cannot help but feel the quiet presence of time itself, pressing down through layers of water, stone, and sediment, as if history has been paused in a frozen, fluid moment. The debate over the origin of these submerged cities is ongoing. Some researchers argue that tectonic shifts, earthquakes, and erosion could create formations that mimic architectural patterns. Yet in many cases, the consistency of angles, terraces, and alignments defies simple geological explanation. The presence of carvings, pathways, and blocks that appear to fit together like puzzle pieces suggests intelligent design. Moreover, similar submerged structures have been found in diverse parts of the world, from the Caribbean to the Mediterranean, pointing to the possibility that ancient civilizations possessed far greater engineering skill than traditionally acknowledged. The mystery lies not only in their construction, but in their disappearance, in what ancient events might have caused these cities to sink beneath the waves. Beyond their physicality, submerged cities evoke a deep emotional resonance. There's a profound silence in the water, an absence of wind, footfalls, and the bustle of daily life. Yet within that silence, the imagination fills in echoes of human activity. Markets, children playing, voices calling across plazas. The structures invite reflection on the passage of time and the impermanence of civilizations. They remind us that no matter how monumental human achievements may be, they are vulnerable to nature's vast, patient forces, rising seas, earthquakes, and the slow erosion of centuries. In this sense, submerged cities are both monuments and warnings, celebrating ingenuity while testifying to mortality, fragility, and the persistence of mystery. The discovery of underwater sites also intersects with mythology and legend. Many coastal cultures have long spoken of lost cities beneath the waves, Atlantis being the most famous example, yet by no means the only one. Oral traditions describe floods, divine punishment, or shifts in land that swallowed entire settlements. While modern science cannot verify myth, the existence of real submerged sites suggests that these stories may carry kernels of truth, remembered and passed down through generations. The overlap of folklore, history, and archaeology creates a compelling tension, where imagination and empirical study coexist, each enriching the other. In contemplating these cities, one begins to sense the layers of human memory that lie beneath water, stone, and sediment, preserved yet elusive. Visiting or imagining these underwater ruins fosters a kind of meditative reflection. The act of exploration is slow and deliberate, mirroring the rhythm of the tides and the weight of the water above. Divers move cautiously, attuned to currents, light, and obstacles, as they navigate spaces that were once home to human life. Every gesture, every photograph, every sonar reading is part of an unfolding story that spans millennia. Observers become acutely aware of the passage of time, the continuity of the Earth, and the fleeting nature of human existence. In this way, submerged cities are not only archaeological marvels, but instruments for contemplation, encouraging humility, patience, and wonder. The mysterious allure of these sites also lies in what remains unseen. Much of the ocean floor is unmapped and unexplored, leaving room for countless discoveries. The majority of submerged structures have not yet been examined, and the potential for finding intact cities, artifacts, or human remains is vast. This unknown portion of our planet becomes a mirror for human curiosity, a reminder that even in an age of satellites, sonar, and advanced diving technology, the world still holds spaces that are resistant to understanding, spaces that require imagination, intuition, and deep respect. The quiet patience of these ruins mirrors the quiet persistence of the oceans themselves, vast, enigmatic, and almost alive with memory. As we leave the silent, sunken plazas and terraces of underwater cities, the feeling of mystery persists. The images of staircases leading to nowhere, walls perfectly aligned beneath the waves, and terraces carved with precision linger in the mind, a gentle hum of curiosity and wonder. These cities, like other unexplained discoveries, balance between knowledge and speculation, reality and myth, tangible stone and the quiet suggestion of lives once lived. They remind us that the past is not a static collection of dates and artifacts, but a living, shifting landscape, partially visible, partially hidden, and full of stories that reach across time and space. The submerged cities of the world, in their silent majesty, invite reflection, patience, and quiet awe. They encourage the mind to slow, to consider the vastness of time, the impermanence of civilizations, and the resilience of mystery itself. As we prepare to move from the deep, shadowed waters to the high, windswept peaks of megalithic structures, the memory of these sunken cities remains, a subtle, haunting echo of humanity's reach, the impermanence of our creations, and the profound, enduring allure of the unknown. Beneath the cold and murky waters of the northern Baltic, where sunlight fades into an endless twilight, lies something that has puzzled scientists, divers, and dreamers alike. Discovered in 2011 by a team of Swedish treasure hunters, the Baltic Sea anomaly has since become one of the ocean's quiet enigmas, an object both familiar and alien, ancient and modern, natural and perhaps not. The sonar images that first revealed it were strange. They showed a massive, circular formation resting about 90 meters below the surface, roughly 60 meters across, with perfect arcs and what appear to be stair-like ridges leading up to it. The image resembled a stone disc, smooth yet fractured, its outline too deliberate to be entirely natural. It seemed, at least in shadow, to mimic something built with purpose. When the divers first ascended, the water was dark and silty. Visibility was poor, and the current carried the whisper of sand and silt across the helmets of their suits. As they approached, the structure loomed in the hazy light of their headlamps. Not gleaming, not metallic, but dull and ancient, like a shipwreck that had forgotten what it once was. Some said it looked like the Millennium Falcon, the iconic spacecraft from Star Wars. Others saw the shape of a forgotten temple, or even the remains of a crashed UFO. The team reported odd phenomena around the site. Their electronic equipment would sometimes cut out, compasses spun in erratic circles, and communication lines faltered. These details, shared in interviews and documentaries, stirred public imagination. Perhaps it was simply interference from the mineral composition of the seabed, or perhaps, some whispered, the structure was emitting something of its own. Over the months and years that followed, scientists tried to demystify it. The mainstream geological explanation suggested it was a natural formation, a glacial deposit sculpted by retreating ice sheets during the last ice age. The Baltic seabed is known for its peculiar topography, ridges, rock formations, and smooth depressions shaped by millennia of glacial pressure. To many geologists, the anomaly's symmetry was not proof of intelligence, but the product of slow, patient forces, the artistry of time and ice. Yet, others were not so easily convinced. The divers had photographed what they described as corridors or passages, as though something once moved through the stone. Some claimed to see rectangular patterns, like tile work or man-made walls. There were even reports of a dark, soot-like substance covering parts of the structure, possibly residue from an ancient fire, though how fire could burn beneath the sea remains an unsolved riddle. In the gentle rhythm of the narrative, we might pause here, between explanation and wonder, to ask why such discoveries captivate us. Why do we crave the impossible? The Baltic Sea anomaly became more than a sonar reading. It became a mirror for our longing to uncover the extraordinary. Every culture has its sunken myths. Atlantis, Lemuria, High Brazil, stories of lost civilizations beneath the waves. This discovery seemed to offer, for a moment, the promise that one of them might be real. As years passed, expeditions revisited the site, though fewer than one might expect. The waters are treacherous, visibility remains poor, and research is expensive. Many scientists lost interest, having settled on a geological explanation. But the public fascination endured. Online forums and documentaries continued to breathe life into the mystery, suggesting theories that spanned from ancient alien craft to remnants of a pre-glacial human culture erased by the sea. A curious detail that continued to fuel speculation was the runway. Sonar scans showed what looked like a long, straight depression leading to the circular formation, as if something had skidded or landed before coming to rest. The idea that an object might have crashed, slid, and embedded itself in the seabed was irresistible, cinematic, almost poetic. But once again, nature offered its own humble reply. Perhaps it was merely a glacial fissure, a natural groove carved by moving ice. And so, we find ourselves drifting between the two worlds, the rational and the wondrous. On one hand, the Baltic Sea anomaly could be nothing more than rock and sediment shaped by time. On the other, it might represent something far older and more mysterious, something that does not fit neatly within our understanding of Earth's history. Between these possibilities lies the magic of the unknown, a place where imagination hums softly, like the echo of waves against the hull of a ship long sunk. Underwater footage of the anomaly reveals surfaces that appear too smooth, edges that curve too cleanly. Yet even in these images, the ocean's distortion plays tricks on the eye. Sand shifts, currents carve, and cameras capture illusions. The line between artifact and accident blurs easily when seen through the lens of murky water and hope. Perhaps that is the true mystery, not what lies beneath, but how our minds fill the darkness with meaning. For some, the anomaly is a metaphor, a reminder of how little we truly know about the world's oceans. More than 80% of the seafloor remains unexplored, hidden in darkness deeper than any mystery of space. What else might lie out there, undiscovered and quietly waiting? The Baltic Sea anomaly may not be an alien relic, but it stands as a symbol of how vast the Earth's secret heart still is. When the divers surfaced from their first descent, they said the silence was overwhelming. No treasure, no gold, no ancient writing, just the shape, the feeling of presence, and the endless sound of the sea. The object did not reveal itself, did not announce what it was. It simply remained, unbothered by human theories. That may be the most haunting thing of all, the way the unknown resists definition, the way it keeps its dignity by staying silent. In the quiet hours of night, when a world above the water sleeps, the structure below still rests in darkness. Cold currents drift across its surface, brushing against grooves that might be natural or deliberate. Perhaps fish shelter in its crevices, or perhaps it sits untouched, a forgotten monument watched only by the slow pulse of the sea. We may never know for certain what the Baltic Sea anomaly truly is. A trick of geology, a relic of prehistory, or something else entirely. It exists on the border between truth and myth, where science meets imagination. And perhaps that is enough, because in the end, not every mystery needs solving. Some are meant to linger in the deep, whispering through sonar echoes and dreams. They remind us that even in an age of satellites and scanners, the Earth still holds secrets, cold, ancient, and patient, resting beneath the waves, waiting for the curious to come listening again. High in the Himalayas, where the air thins into silence and snow covers the world like a shroud, there lies a small, frozen lake that keeps an ancient secret. Rupkund, they call it, the mystery lake of India. It sits at over 16,000 feet above sea level, nestled among ridges where the wind never stops moving and where the ground holds the memory of something strange. When the snow melts in the short Himalayan summer, the lake reveals its truth. Around its edges and sometimes within its icy depths, hundreds of human skeletons appear, bleached, scattered, and perfectly preserved by centuries of cold. Skulls with empty eye sockets stare upward through the thin, clear water. Bones lie tangled among rocks, some still wrapped in remnants of flesh or cloth that have survived the ages. For centuries, no one knew who these people were, where they came from, or how they all died together in such a desolate place. The local folklore tells stories, as mountain people always do, to explain what science cannot. One legend speaks of a goddess who grew angry at a group of travelers. They had disrespected her mountain by dancing and singing where silence was sacred. To punish them, she rained down death from the sky, a storm of stones as hard as iron. When the villagers visit Rupkund, they whisper prayers, for even the wind feels heavy with ghosts. The first recorded sighting of the skeletons came in 1942, when a British forest ranger, patrolling through the area, stumbled upon the bones. At first, he thought he had discovered the remains of a recent battle, perhaps Japanese soldiers who had crossed into India during the war. But as the remains were examined, it became clear that they were far older. The bones told no modern story. The mystery deepened. Scientists from around the world would come to this small, hidden lake in the decades that followed. Some proposed that the skeletons were soldiers from ancient armies who had perished in an expedition gone wrong. Others thought they might have been pilgrims, caught in a blizzard while crossing the mountains to a sacred site. But none of these explanations could account for the sheer number of bodies, or the strange way they were preserved. When DNA analysis finally became possible in the 21st century, it offered clues, and yet, more questions. Genetic testing revealed that the remains belonged not to one group of people, but to at least two, possibly three distinct groups. Some of the individuals had genetic markers linked to populations in South Asia, while others appeared to be from the Eastern Mediterranean, people whose ancestry traced back to places like Greece or Crete. How could such distant groups have met their end together in this remote Himalayan basin? Radiocarbon dating only deepened the riddle. The skeletons were not all from the same time. Some dated back as far as the 9th century. Others were nearly 1,000 years younger. The lake, it seemed, had become a recurring grave, a place where people died centuries apart, yet shared the same frozen tomb. For a moment, the old legend about the goddess and her hailstorm seemed less like myth and more like memory. Studies of the skulls revealed fractures consistent with blunt trauma, as if each person had been struck on the head by something round and hard, falling from above. The injuries didn't look like those from weapons, or from fighting, or from avalanche debris. They looked like the work of hailstones, massive ones, some nearly the size of softballs, falling with lethal force. It's a haunting image. Hundreds of travelers trapped in a mountain pass, nowhere to shelter as the sky turns violet. Each blow, each impact, echoing through the thin air until the last cry fades into silence. In that cold and merciless place, the mountains would have kept their secret well. The storm would have ended, the snow would have covered the bodies, and the lake would have frozen them in eternal stillness. But even this explanation, poetic as it is, may not tell the whole story. The newer skeletons, belonging to people who perished centuries later, did not all share the same injuries. Some appear to have died of exposure, others perhaps of illness. The presence of diverse genetic groups suggests that Rupkund may have long been a site of pilgrimage or ritual, a place where travelers came seeking spiritual elevation, and sometimes met their end. In the dim light of dawn, one can imagine what those pilgrimages might have been like. Processions of devotees moving through the mist, chanting, carrying offerings to a distant temple. The rhythm of drums echoing faintly between the peaks. The thin air shimmering with the faint scent of incense. And perhaps, somewhere along the path, an unexpected turn of weather, a storm no one could escape. Today, Rupkund is a place both sacred and unsettling. Trekkers who visit describe the eerie quiet that hangs over the lake, the strange feeling of being watched by the past. The bones are sometimes visible through the water, their shapes blur by ripples and ice. Even in photographs, the scene feels otherworldly, like the boundary between life and death has thinned to transparency. The scientific research continues, though the high altitude and harsh conditions make fieldwork difficult. Some believe there may be more remains still buried beneath the lake's sediments, untouched for 1,000 years. Others think the true answer will remain forever elusive, hidden in the same mists that roll across the peaks. Perhaps the mystery endures because it is meant to, because Rupkund is not only a place of death, but a meditation on time, nature, and the smallness of human certainty. As night falls over the Himalayas, the temperature drops quickly. The wind whistles through the passes like a long, mournful flute. Somewhere below, the frozen water lies still, holding its secret sleepers. They have become part of the mountain now, part of the eternal rhythm of ice and thaw, silence and storm. And perhaps that is where the true meaning of Rupkund lies. It is not merely a puzzle for scientists to solve, but a reminder that the Earth keeps its own archives, written not on paper or stone, but in bone and snow. The people who perished there are no longer nameless. Their story, though incomplete, has returned to the living world. In the soft calm of reflection, one might see Rupkund not as a tragedy, but as a testament to mystery itself, how it survives across centuries, whispering through wind and water, asking only that we listen. Because sometimes the mountain does not want to give an answer. Sometimes it only wants to be heard. In the dry heat of a rock, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers once nurtured the cradle of civilization, archaeologists unearthed a curious set of objects in the 1930s. They were small clay jars, simple in appearance, almost ordinary. Yet within them lay something that defied the expectations of their time. Each contained a rolled sheet of copper, fitted inside the jar, with an iron rod running through its center. Between the two, traces of an acidic residue were found, perhaps vinegar or lemon juice or wine. To most eyes, they looked like artifacts of daily life, storage jars, remnants of craft or ritual. But one man, Wilhelm Koenig, a German archaeologist working at the Baghdad Museum, saw something different. To him, the design resembled the basic components of a galvanic cell, what we would call today a battery. He wondered, could this have been a source of electrical power created over 2,000 years ago? The discovery was made near Kujut Rabu, just outside of Baghdad, a region filled with the remnants of ancient Parthian and Mesopotamian cultures. The jars dated roughly to between 100 BCE and 200 CE, an age long before electricity was officially discovered. Yet Koenig's theory ignited fascination. The so-called Baghdad battery seemed to suggest that ancient people might have understood and harnessed electrical principles centuries before modern science named them. When researchers in later decades attempted to reconstruct the jars, they found that if the vessels were filled with an acidic solution, such as vinegar or grape juice, they could indeed produce a small electrical charge. Not enough to power a light bulb, of course, but enough to create a mild current. It was a simple design, but a functional one. And with that, the idea took hold. Had ancient craftsmen stumbled upon a primitive form of electricity? The thought is captivating. Imagine an artisan in an ancient workshop dipping metal rods into jars of liquid, unaware that he's touching the edge of a force that would someday illuminate cities and drive modern civilization. Perhaps he used it for electroplating, applying thin layers of gold or silver to objects of worship or trade. Some even suggested that the jars were used for healing, that priests or physicians applied mild electric shocks as part of spiritual or medical practices. Yet, as with many archaeological enigmas, skepticism soon followed. Critics argued that the jars could have served entirely different purposes. Perhaps they were simple storage vessels or ritual containers for scrolls or sacred oils. There is no definitive evidence that they were ever used to generate power. No wires, no conductors, no written descriptions. The idea of a battery may have been a modern projection onto something ancient and misunderstood. Still, the allure remains. There is something deeply haunting in the possibility that people of the ancient world may have touched the same invisible forces that now define our age. Whether or not they understood electricity as we do, the Baghdad battery invites us to imagine forgotten knowledge, flashes of discovery that history never recorded. Archaeology is, in many ways, a dialogue with silence. Every fragment uncovered is a word in an incomplete sentence, and we, the living, must fill the gaps with cautious imagination. The Baghdad battery lives precisely in that gap, between function and mystery, between what is known and what feels too extraordinary to dismiss. Experiments continued into the 20th century. Scientists from the University of Pennsylvania recreated multiple versions of the device and confirmed that, when linked together, they could produce a steady low-voltage current. It was not a trick. The chemistry was sound. But still, the question remained, why would ancient artisans have needed it? The answer refused to settle. In sleep-friendly rhythm, we can drift for a moment to consider what electricity must have felt like to the ancient world, not as a technology, but as an element of the divine. Lightning cracking through the heavens, fire leaping from the sky to earth. To them, energy was a language of gods. It's possible that these jars, if they did indeed spark or hum faintly, would have seemed like vessels of power, miniature thunders held in human hands. Some have drawn parallels to Egyptian electroplating, to strange accounts of luminous stones, or to artifacts with unexplained metallic coatings. Could electricity have been known in pockets of ancient craftsmanship, not as science, but as mystery, a tool wrapped in ritual? The question hums quietly through time, unanswered. Then there is the other side of the story, the humility of natural coincidence. The Baghdad battery may simply be a case of design meeting interpretation. The jars might have held scrolls or sacred relics, the copper sheets used only as protective linings. The acidic residue could have been from fermented storage. The resemblance to a battery might be just that, resemblance. But even if that's true, there's something profoundly beautiful in how our minds reach beyond what's certain. The human imagination does not rest easily with the mundane. We see shapes in clouds, faces in stone, meaning in coincidence. The Baghdad battery may be less a relic of lost technology and more a reflection of our need to believe that knowledge, like energy, never truly disappears, that it flows through time, waiting to be rediscovered. If we listen closely, this mystery whispers something deeper about civilization itself. Perhaps the progress of humanity is not a straight line of discovery, but a tide, knowledge gained, forgotten, and found again. What if electricity was once a sacred craft, lost in the long turning of centuries, and we merely reawakened it in our own time? As we return to the present moment, the jars remain where they've always been, resting quietly in museum cases, their rough clay surfaces still stained by the touch of hands long turned to dust. Visitors pass them by, unaware that these small vessels may hold the echo of a question that refuses to fade. The truth of the Baghdad battery might never be proven, yet perhaps it doesn't need to be. Its purpose, whether practical or symbolic, lies in what it evokes: wonder, humility, curiosity. It reminds us that the ancient world was not primitive, but alive with experiment, intuition, and mystery. They too watched lightning and sought to understand. They too turned curiosity into craft. And so, beneath the hum of modern electricity that surrounds us, the thought endures that once, somewhere in the sands of Mesopotamia, a quiet spark may have flickered in the dark, and for a moment, the ancient world held power in its hands. Not power as we know it, not to conquer, not to control, but the simple, sacred wonder of discovery itself. In the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, hidden beneath the thick canopy of rain-soaked trees, explorers have uncovered objects that seem to hum with quiet mystery. Among these are the crystal skulls, perfectly carved human skulls fashioned from quartz, so clear that they almost seem to glow from within. Found in regions of Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize, these artifacts have captivated collectors, scientists, and storytellers alike. Some are small enough to hold in a single hand, while others loom at nearly 2 feet in length. Their surfaces are smooth, their contours precise, and their craftsmanship, in some cases, appears almost impossibly advanced for ancient civilizations. The first skulls came to wider attention in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Museums and private collectors displayed them as curiosities, yet few could explain their origin. Modern analysis has shown that some of these skulls were carved with the use of tools available only in the industrial era, diamond-tipped drills or rotary wheels, prompting debate about whether they are truly ancient or clever modern creations. And yet, regardless of their age, the legends surrounding them have never diminished. Local traditions speak of these skulls as sacred objects, vessels of knowledge, and bridges between the physical and spiritual realms. Some say that the skulls contain the collective wisdom of the Maya or Aztec civilizations, encoded in a language of energy rather than words. Others claim that when held or meditated upon, they emit vibrations that can heal, awaken consciousness, or reveal visions of the past and future. Scientific scrutiny, of course, tells a quieter story. Quartz, after all, is piezoelectric. It can generate an electrical charge under pressure. Some researchers have speculated that these skulls, if handled in particular ways, might have interacted with human energy fields, though this remains unproven. Yet even as modern science seeks to explain them, the aura of mystery persists, woven from millennia of myth, imagination, and belief. What makes the crystal skulls so compelling is the paradox they embody. On one hand, they are concrete objects, stone shaped by human hands, measurable and weighty. On the other, they are symbols, representations of knowledge, mortality, and the unknown. Their emptiness is their power, a hollow eye socket that seems to peer not only outward, but inward, inviting reflection. To hold a crystal skull is to confront the limits of perception, to touch both the past and a realm beyond comprehension. The stories of their discovery are as strange as the skulls themselves. Some appeared in ruins deep in the jungle, carefully buried or hidden in secret chambers. Others surfaced in private collections, leaving historians to piece together tantalizing fragments of origin stories that may never be confirmed. Many skulls have been tested, their surfaces examined under microscopes, revealing patterns of wear and tool marks that hint at both skill and deliberate artistry. The methods used to carve them, in many cases, exceed what is documented for ancient tools, suggesting either forgotten techniques or interventions long after the supposed time of creation. Popular culture has embraced the skulls with a mix of awe and imagination. Tales of psychic visions, energy healing, and lost civilizations swirl around them like mist. Some theorists link them to the legend of Atlantis, imagining them as repositories of advanced knowledge left behind before the world sank into myth. Others speak of them as cosmic keys, aligning with planetary cycles, celestial phenomena, or even the mysterious electromagnetic fields of the Earth. Despite their allure, skepticism remains a constant companion. Carbon dating cannot always determine age for a crystal object, leaving its historical timeline uncertain. Some skulls are known forgeries, cleverly crafted to appear ancient. Museums, collectors, and scientists caution against seeing too much meaning in stone alone. Yet perhaps it is in that ambiguity that the skulls find their true magic, in the tension between evidence and wonder, between fact and story. There is a reason these artifacts resonate so deeply with human imagination. The human skull itself has long been a symbol of mortality, consciousness, and memory. To see that form etched in crystal is to see ourselves reflected, our fragility and our curiosity, our desire to understand life and death in equal measure. The transparency of quartz mirrors the transparency of inquiry. We look, we touch, we wonder, and yet full understanding remains elusive. Explorers who have carried the skulls through jungles speak of a peculiar sensation, a sense of being watched, or of something watching over them. Some have claimed that in the quiet of night, the skulls seem to capture light differently, casting patterns on walls as if communicating in some silent language. Whether these experiences are neurological, cultural, or something more mysterious is impossible to confirm. And perhaps that is precisely why the legend persists. The skulls offer a space for imagination to wander, a liminal realm between history and myth. In their quiet way, crystal skulls challenge us to reconsider what knowledge is. Knowledge, they imply, is not merely written in books or recorded in artifacts, but also stored in forms we cannot yet read. They ask us to listen, to observe, and to perceive with more than sight alone. Their hardness contrasts with their symbolic delicacy, enduring yet fragile, solid yet capable of holding infinite interpretations. Walking among the display cases in a museum or along the jungle ruins where these skulls were found, one cannot escape the feeling of suspended time. Centuries or millennia may separate the original artisans from the modern observer, yet a thread connects them. Through skill, curiosity, and perhaps a touch of the unknowable, something has passed forward. The skulls become more than objects. They are vessels of imagination, carriers of questions that science cannot fully answer, and reminders that human culture has always flirted with the invisible. In the calm and reflective tone suited for sleep, it is easy to imagine holding one of these skulls under a soft light, tracing its smooth surfaces with the fingertips, feeling a strange connection to the hands that shaped it centuries ago. Perhaps they are nothing more than carved quartz, Yet even in that simplicity, they achieve a quiet power to make the viewer pause, to awaken curiosity, and to sit with the mystery of existence itself. The crystal skulls remain, in many ways, a metaphor for humanity's relationship with the unknown. They are at once tangible and intangible, ordinary and extraordinary, real and unreal. They remind us that history is full of gaps, that culture and belief can transform stone into story, and that sometimes the most enduring discoveries are not what we can measure or categorize, but what we feel and imagine. As night falls across the jungles and deserts where these skulls once lay, their quiet presence endures. They do not demand understanding. They do not reveal their secrets. They merely exist, serene, beautiful, and haunting. And perhaps that is their gift, to remind us that the world contains mysteries that are not meant to be solved, only to be felt, pondered, and gently held in the mind's eye as we drift towards sleep. On a quiet morning in the remote Siberian taiga, June 30th, 1908, the sky erupted in a way that would leave the world both awed and baffled. Few witnessed the event directly, but its effects were immediate and dramatic. Trees flattened for over 800 square miles, lying like matchsticks pointing away from a central, invisible source. Birds fell from the sky, rivers boiled, and a shock wave circled the globe. Yet despite the immense destruction, no crater was ever found, no fragment of an impactor recovered. The event, named after the nearby Tunguska River, became one of the most confounding mysteries of modern science, a silent explosion that left a deafening question mark in its wake. Eyewitnesses who survived the shock described an intense flash of light brighter than the sun, accompanied by a rumble that shook the earth beneath their feet. Some reported feeling the heat on their faces despite being miles away, as though the sky itself had ignited. Animals fled in panic, and local Evenki tribes interpreted the phenomenon through the lens of their own beliefs. The forest spirits, they said, had expressed anger, and the land had been touched by forces beyond human comprehension. When expeditions eventually arrived decades later to survey the region, they found a landscape frozen in unnatural chaos. The forest lay in radial patterns, as if pushed outward by an invisible hand. Trees that remained standing were stripped of branches and bark, scorched by a blast whose intensity could only be described as apocalyptic. And yet, the source of the explosion eluded detection. There was no meteorite, no asteroid fragment, no obvious origin. The mystery deepened. Scientists and theorists offered explanations, each with its own allure and flaws. One suggestion was that a comet or meteoroid had entered the Earth's atmosphere, exploding in an airburst tens of kilometers above the ground. This would account for the lack of a crater and the radial tree patterns. Calculations showed that an object about 50 to 60 meters wide, traveling at tens of kilometers per second, could produce the observed devastation. Yet no definitive remnants were found. No metallic shards, no chondritic fragments, nothing that could be tested or dated. Other explanations drifted into the extraordinary. Some speculated that the explosion was caused by a small black hole passing through the Earth, disrupting the ground and igniting the air. Others proposed natural gas explosions from the Siberian permafrost, methane pockets released suddenly, igniting in a fireball. There were even claims of extraterrestrial involvement, alien spacecraft malfunctioning, or experiments gone awry. Each theory, however fascinating, has its critics. The lack of concrete evidence allows the story to hover in liminal space between hard science and the edges of imagination. Yet what makes the Tunguska event truly haunting is not merely the mechanics of the explosion, but its silence afterward. For a region so thoroughly transformed, the Earth seemed to absorb the trauma almost immediately. Over decades, moss, lichen, and shrubs crept across the flattened forest, restoring a quiet normalcy. Rivers flowed, animals returned, and humans eventually wandered through the same paths as before. Nature, it seems, heals quickly, but beneath that calm lies the memory of a force so immense it could have ended civilizations, had it struck a more populated region. Some have suggested that Tunguska is a warning, a reminder of humanity's fragility in the face of cosmic events. In a world increasingly connected and technologically advanced, it's easy to forget that the universe operates on scales and energies far beyond our control. An object the size of a small building, traveling faster than any missile, can release more energy than the largest human-made bomb. The morning sky over Tunguska was an orchestra of destruction, one whose score has been partially lost to time. Eyewitness reports, though scattered and occasionally contradictory, add a human layer to the mystery. People described sensations of vertigo, temporary blindness from the intense flash, and an uncanny ringing in their ears. Some reported seeing a fiery dragon across the sky, its movements slow and deliberate, as though alive. Others spoke of a blue-white dome that seemed to descend and vanish in seconds. The narratives, tinged with awe and fear, suggest that the event was as psychological as it was physical, an encounter with a phenomenon that defies ordinary experience. Scientific investigations into Tunguska began in earnest in the 1920s and 1930s. Leonid Kulik, a Russian mineralogist, led expeditions to map the devastation and collect samples. He cataloged the fallen trees, noting their outward direction and burned tops. He gathered soil and ash, seeking fragments of the mysterious object that had caused the explosion. But despite his meticulous work, he found no meteorite, no material evidence to support the hypothesis of a conventional impact. The absence of a crater was perplexing. If a meteoroid had struck the ground, the landscape should have shown a visible depression. As decades passed, research expanded. High-altitude photographs, aerial surveys, and satellite imagery confirmed Kulik's initial observations. The radial tree pattern, scorched treetops, and flattened forest area were consistent with an airburst rather than a ground impact. Computer simulations later estimated the energy released to be between 10 and 15 megatons, more than 1,000 times the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It was an explosion so violent that, had it occurred over London or New York, it would have left cities in ruin and thousands dead. The lack of debris continues to fuel speculation. Some scientists believe that Tunguska was caused by a stony comet, mostly composed of ice, which vaporized completely in the atmosphere before reaching the ground. This would explain why no fragments remain. Others argue for an asteroid made of fragile carbonaceous material, which disintegrated upon entering the denser layers of air. Both explanations fit the known evidence, yet neither satisfies the human desire for tangible proof, a piece of the sky that fell, something to hold and touch. In the quiet and reflective hours, the Tunguska event becomes more than an astronomical or geological puzzle. It is a meditation on the impermanence of certainty, the limits of human observation, and the vast scale of natural forces. It reminds us that, no matter how much knowledge we accumulate, the universe still holds moments that elude comprehension, events that rewrite the boundaries of possibility in the space of a single morning. There are also ecological lessons embedded in Tunguska. Scientists have studied how the forest recovered, observing the resilience of life in the wake of catastrophic destruction. Pioneer species colonized the flattened areas, slowly creating a new canopy. Birds returned, animals followed, and within a few decades, the forest regained its density, though forever marked by radial lines and scattered skeletons of trees. Nature, though fragile in a moment of violence, proves relentless in its capacity for regeneration. Yet Tunguska retains a poetic quality that science alone cannot capture. It is the image of an invisible hand, striking the earth and leaving behind a silent testimony. It is the sound of a sky exploding without a crater, of fire and air moving in a perfect, unstoppable symmetry. It is the reminder that the world is larger than our maps, more powerful than our instruments, and infinitely stranger than our imagination alone can hold. Some modern thinkers have considered Tunguska in relation to future threats. Asteroid detection programs, global monitoring of near-Earth objects, and disaster preparedness protocols all draw indirect lessons from that quiet forest in Siberia. In essence, Tunguska is both a memory and a warning that Earth is not a closed system, and that the cosmos continues to remind us of its scale. Yet even with all these explanations, the human mind drifts to the unknown. What if Tunguska was not merely a meteor or comet? What if the sky itself carried intentions we cannot decode? What if the explosion, in its silent brilliance, was a message, a fleeting glimpse into the raw energy of the universe? The mind conjures possibilities as vast and unfathomable as the taiga itself, and in that contemplation, the story of Tunguska becomes timeless. The taiga today seems tranquil, almost indifferent. Streams murmur quietly, moss spreads across fallen trees, and wildlife moves through the forest as if the cataclysm of 1908 were nothing more than a memory. And yet, beneath that serenity, the echo of the explosion lingers, in the pattern of the trees, in the silent soil, in the imagination of those who have walked the region. The forest is both witness and participant, keeping the secret in a hushed and enduring way. As night descends over Siberia, stars emerge above the frozen peaks and endless forests. The same sky that witnessed the Tunguska event shines quietly, as if nothing had happened. Yet for those who study it, for those who ponder it, for those who allow themselves to drift into reflection, the morning of June 30th remains vivid. The sky exploded, and the earth listened. The mystery endures, silent but profound, a reminder of the fragile boundary between the known and the unknowable. And perhaps, in the end, that is the true power of Tunguska, not in the force it released, but in the questions it leaves behind. Questions about the universe, about human perception, about our place in a cosmos that can move without notice, without warning, and without concern for our understanding. It is a story to be told slowly, repeated softly, and contemplated with patience, as one drifts in his sleep and the imagination stretches to fill the quiet spaces left by what we cannot yet explain. Tunguska is not simply an event in time. It is a meditation on scale, a reflection on the extraordinary lurking in the ordinary sky, and a symbol of the fragile edge upon which life exists. It reminds us that mystery is not merely a curiosity to be solved. It is a companion, a shadow that moves with knowledge, teaching us humility, wonder, and the quiet joy of asking questions that may never have answers. Even as science marches forward, some mysteries continue to elude our grasp, reminding us that not all questions have answers, and that the unknown is often closer than we imagine. From the icy expanses of the Ural Mountains to the invisible fabric of the cosmos, these modern enigmas occupy a space between reality and imagination, prompting wonder without demanding understanding. They are reminders that the universe, in all its scale and complexity, still holds secrets we may never fully decode. One of the most haunting of these contemporary mysteries is the Dyatlov Pass incident. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers in the northern Urals perished under circumstances that remain unresolved to this day. Their tent was found ripped open from the inside, their bodies scattered across the snow, some clad only in underwear, others with severe injuries inconsistent with a fall or avalanche. Researchers and enthusiasts have proposed theories ranging from secret military tests to sudden infrasound-induced panic, yet none fully explains the strange combination of trauma, exposure, and disorientation. The story lingers because it straddles the boundary between human error, natural force, and something wholly inexplicable, leaving listeners with a chill that cannot be dispelled by rational analysis alone. Across the universe, mysteries take on a different scale but evoke a similar awe. Dark matter, for instance, constitutes roughly 27% of the cosmos, yet it is invisible, detectable only through its gravitational influence. Scientists know it exists because galaxies rotate and move in ways that cannot be explained by visible matter alone. Yet, despite decades of research and countless experiments, its composition remains unknown. Dark matter is a silent architect of the universe, a hidden presence shaping stars, galaxies, and cosmic webs, and yet it offers no direct signal to our instruments, a ghostly reminder that we perceive only a fraction of reality. Both Dyatlov and dark matter exemplify the tension between knowledge and mystery, though in very different ways. One is intimate and human, the other vast and cosmic. Both, however, highlight a fundamental truth. Understanding is never complete, and certainty is always provisional. The world, whether in its frozen forests or the distant reaches of space, retains a depth that invites quiet contemplation rather than immediate resolution. Science has made extraordinary progress in uncovering the mechanics of the universe. Yet these mysteries exist as gentle hums beneath the hum of our knowledge. They are threads connecting the known and unknown, urging curiosity while resisting closure. They remind us that exploration is as much about patience and reflection as it is about instruments and data. Often, the act of asking the question is more important than obtaining a final answer. There are other examples in modern times that provoke the same contemplative fascination. Unexplained aerial phenomena, bizarre biological occurrences, or sudden geological shifts all hint at dimensions of experience still beyond the reach of definitive explanation. Each story carries with it the tension of observation and imagination, of evidence and intuition. They are subtle invitations to pause, to let the mind wander through possibility, and to embrace the quiet thrill of the unknown. In a sleep-friendly context, these modern mysteries serve a dual purpose. On one hand, they stimulate curiosity, a gentle, meandering curiosity that does not demand immediate action or resolution. On the other, they foster reflection, allowing the mind to linger in a state of wonder, suspended between the known and the unknowable. Dyatlov Pass, dark matter, and other enigmas become companions in thought, not sources of anxiety, guiding the listener through landscapes of mystery with a calm, unhurried pace. Ultimately, these modern mysteries connect the present to the past, forming a continuum of the unexplained. Just as the skeletons of Rupkund Lake or the crystal skulls hint at questions that have persisted across centuries, phenomena like dark matter or Dyatlov echo the same rhythm of curiosity and humility. They are reminders that human perception is limited, that time and space stretch beyond our immediate understanding, and that sometimes the most profound experiences come not from answers, but from the quiet engagement with what we cannot yet know. As night deepens and the mind drifts toward rest, these mysteries can be imagined not as threats, but as gentle prompts for reflection. The mountains, the forests, the oceans, and the farthest reaches of space all carry questions that exist in parallel with our daily lives. They move silently, patiently, always just beyond reach, waiting for the mind to encounter them in moments of quiet awareness. The modern world, despite its technology and speed, still hums with enigmas that resist explanation. Some are intimate, touching individual lives. Others are vast, shaping galaxies in invisible ways. Yet all share a common quality. They invite us to dwell in curiosity, to embrace the unknown with patience and wonder. In this space, mystery is not unsettling. It is a gentle guide, a companion for thought, a quiet invitation to explore the edges of understanding without urgency or fear. In the end, modern mysteries like Dyatlov Pass and dark matter remind us of the limits and beauty of human perception. They teach that the universe is richer and stranger than we often allow ourselves to perceive, and that embracing the unknown can be as soothing and illuminating as discovering a fact. They exist as silent teachers, urging calm reflection, slow contemplation, and a deep, gentle appreciation for the mysteries that surround us. From the peaks of the Urals to the farthest galaxies, all resting quietly in the vast night. As we draw this journey through history, nature, and the universe to a close, it is worth pausing to reflect on what these mysteries truly offer. From the Baltic Sea anomaly to the frozen bones of Rupkund, from the Baghdad battery to the silent devastation of Tunguska, we have wandered through stories that straddle the line between fact and legend, science and imagination. Each discovery reminds us that the world is far larger, stranger, and more intricate than our minds can fully grasp. Mystery, it seems, is not an obstacle to understanding, but a companion in curiosity. There is a peculiar calm in confronting the unknown. Unlike fear, which demands reaction, or ignorance, which limits perception, mystery allows for observation, contemplation, and even delight. When the mind encounters something it cannot fully explain, it is invited into a state of gentle reflection, a place where imagination can move freely without the pressure of certainty. For those lying awake at night, listening softly, these enigmas are not threats but subtle lullabies, weaving wonder into the quiet spaces of consciousness. History teaches us that the unexplained often sparks creativity as much as inquiry. Legends of crystal skulls and lost civilizations inspire art, literature, and philosophy. Even the most scientifically minded are moved by the sheer beauty of phenomena they cannot yet measure. The Dyatlov Pass incident, with its eerie details, continues to captivate because it is incomplete. It offers gaps that the mind instinctively seeks to fill, creating a story that is part history, part imagination. The same is true for dark matter, the invisible scaffolding of the cosmos. Though it defies direct observation, it shapes galaxies and invites us to envision the hidden architecture of the universe. There is also a profound lesson in humility embedded in these mysteries. No matter how much technology we develop or knowledge we accumulate, there are events and objects that challenge our assumptions. Tunguska reminds us that the Earth itself is a theater of forces far beyond human control. Rupkund whispers of human vulnerability in the face of nature's merciless precision. The Baltic Sea anomaly, whether natural or something else, shows us that the ocean preserves secrets that centuries of exploration cannot fully unveil. Each story is a testament to the limits of human perception and the enduring presence of the unknown. Yet these mysteries are not merely external. They echo inward as well. They prompt questions about perception, belief, and the nature of understanding. Why are humans drawn to enigmas? Why do we linger on puzzles that cannot be solved? Perhaps it is because the act of wonder itself is restorative. It encourages patience, imagination, and openness, qualities that are increasingly rare in a world dominated by information and immediate answers. In the quiet of night, as the mind relaxes, mysteries become companions, teaching that uncertainty can be beautiful and even comforting. The interplay of light and dark, knowledge and ignorance, is central to this allure. The mysteries we have explored exist in a liminal space, not entirely known, yet not wholly unknowable. They straddle boundaries, inviting us to explore the edge of understanding without pressing too hard for closure. In this gentle tension lies their power. They draw us in, hold our attention, and allow the mind to drift in quiet fascination. For sleep-friendly storytelling, this is ideal. The balance between intrigue and calm, between curiosity and reflection, soothes the mind while engaging it, encouraging deep thought that does not disturb rest. Reflection also reveals the continuity of mystery across time and space. Ancient artifacts like the Baghdad battery or the crystal skulls connect us to centuries of human thought and creativity. Natural phenomena, such as Tunguska or the skeletons at Rupkund, link us to forces that shaped our world long before we could comprehend them. Modern enigmas, from Dyatlov Pass to dark matter, remind us that the universe remains vast and enigmatic, with questions extending far beyond our immediate reach. Mystery is a thread that binds human experience across eras, a reminder that curiosity is timeless. In considering all these phenomena together, a pattern emerges. Mystery serves as a mirror, reflecting both the external world and our internal landscape. It reveals the majesty of nature, the ingenuity of human culture, and the fragility of our understanding. It prompts awe without insisting on answers, wonder without demanding certainty. In this way, mystery is a form of meditation, a quiet, unhurried engagement with the unknown, perfect for evening reflection or gentle contemplation before sleep. Ultimately, the appeal of these unexplained discoveries lies not in resolution, but in presence. The Baltic Sea anomaly, Rupkund Lake, the Baghdad Battery, the Crystal Skulls, Tunguska, and modern enigmas each invite us to sit with the unanswered question, to linger in curiosity, and to find calm in the space between knowledge and mystery. They remind us that the universe is full of beauty and strangeness, and that embracing the unknown can enrich our perception, inspire our imagination, and soothe our minds. As you drift towards sleep, imagine these mysteries as companions rather than puzzles. Picture the sunken shapes beneath the Baltic waves, the silent bones on a frozen Himalayan lake, the small jar that might once have sparked human wonder, the glimmering crystal carved from quartz, and the sky that once exploded over Siberia. Let them float gently in your imagination, neither threatening nor urgent, simply present as reminders of the vastness, complexity, and quiet majesty of the world. And in that contemplation, there's a final lesson. Mystery endures, not to frustrate, but to enrich. It teaches patience, encourages reflection, and reminds us that life is not merely a collection of solved problems, but a series of questions, observations, and quiet awe. The unexplained is a gift, a soft hum beneath the noise of daily life, inviting the mind to wander, to imagine, and ultimately to rest. Sleep comes more easily when we accept that not all can be known, that wonder is valuable in itself, and that the world, in all its history, science, and shadowed corners, is endlessly, beautifully mysterious. These discoveries, both ancient and modern, carry us into that space, offering curiosity without urgency, fascination without fear, and the gentle, abiding calm of the unexplored.